So I just wanted to say it's been a real pleasure getting to watch the show and experience it for the first time. With the third season coming out, finding out I was doing the interviews, I went back and watched it, and it's just been an awesome time. And you're so good in it. Um, so with the second season ending the way it did, I'm sure you were curious about how a season three would work and whether or not your character would return. How far back did you know about the plot for season three and that you'd return for your character?
Well, I whether by design or it's my choice as an actor, I'm on kind of on a need to know basis. I'm sure if I prodded, I would, but I feel like the nature of this as an actor, and kind of maybe as a human being, because to me it's kind of more of a ride rather than a. Does that make sense? Rather than a shoot,
Yeah.
it's a ride. It's almost like I get like the coolest seat in town for this immersive experience, and so I kind of don't want to know, and I have told Bernie if there's something I absolutely do need to know for my work, of course, let me know.
Hmm.
And even then, sometimes the weird surprises I think are a little organic. I've yet to run into somewhere where I said, "Oh, I wish you had told me this like 6 months ago." You know what I mean? It's rare. It's usually like, "Oh, okay," and it all kind of fits. Answer your question. It may have been available to me, but I am, as I say, either by their design or my choice. I'm in the dark, and I take things I like to say, one light at a time.
Very, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. So of course you've been a part of this show since the pilot and a lot has changed,
Oh my
especially
God.
in this season with it being more virtual and more interactive than
Yeah.
ever before.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, as an actor, did the interactive element of the story initially make you nervous? And how do you feel now with the audience having even more control in season three?
Well, that's a very good question. And I'd be lying if I wouldn't say it would be like a love hate relationship, like any great relationship is. The At first, it's all new to me, and I'm of the stage. I've done, I go way back, and I've done tons of stage on pretty
Hmm.
high level, and improv has been sort of a through line, I would say, in my whole career, and quite frankly, I studied engineering in college, but I chose to do this because I like the fact that it is all. I never know what's next,
Yeah.
and I actually like that. So I welcome change. So I'm very maybe suited for this gig. I welcome change, and to me, it's just more data, to process, and makes things more interesting. And so I feel that when I yes, so when it started, it was a little harsh, sort of feeling the honesty maybe
Hmm.
of it. Which that's the internet, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's honesty is
Of
harsh,
course.
and maybe you have to also, edit it according to what you believe the actual reality is, and whatever, I mean, and I so it's a little harsh, but man, what a great experience. I wish every actor could go through this. It really cements your relationship with the audience. Normally, you do it and you're completely shielded from it, especially in camera. And I had
Hmm.
to stage, but even you walk into a you know you know the Goodman Theater in Chicago. This is a very polite audience, right? This is not the theater
Yeah.
audience,
Yeah.
you know. And you're shielded even by critics, who can be harsh, but that's what it is. But here it's pretty raw. It's pretty raw, and but I got to say I've never had this kind of relationship with an audience before, and it's a rough ride, but it's been a good one, and I think it's been invaluable, quite frankly, as an actor. So yes,
Hmm.
it's been harsh, but it's also been great too, because there have been some really great supporters. I mean, that's the thing that's amazing. Like, people are sticking with the show. And the handful are actually
Yeah.
get where Matt's coming from, especially this season, right? Because there's so many
Hmm.
people that think, who is this jerk, Matt? Like, what? I wasn't always this angry. I used to be nice. Ah,
Yeah.
and so you don't know me. You don't know me. Yeah. So it's an interesting. Right, but it's a great one and it's a real one, man. You know,
Hmm.
that's the thing so weird is like all the stuff that I just yeah I have been shielded by critics. I've been shielded by everything, you know, and all this stuff that you know all this smoke they like to blow up your whatever, you know, and this is a real intimate relationship with the audience, and so it's love hate. What can I say? You know, but
Yeah.
I like to think it always ends up on love. I like to think, yeah, and I don't think I'm just saying that because it's the right thing to say, but at the end of the day, it's funny. I was just looking at the chat. A
Hmm.
lot of actors don't do it, but I just say, you know what? That's part of my process. Is I
Yeah.
just face it, face it. And it's funny. It's usually good, 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 good. And I love the fact, and you realize now they're talking more about the characters. It's not very personal anymore, which is nice. But they'll even if they get your character, especially because I've been doing it for so long, it's such a part of me that I'll get offended, and all this sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, I have people going, but at the end of the day, I thought, you know what? These these folks are being entertained. This is, and it's an honor to be here. And
Hmm.
so at the end of the day, once I settle down, chill out, take a deep breath. It's a good thing. And I think now, as opposed to the first season, and it's been the whole thing's been such an evolution. Now, which is very very encouraging, is I feel like almost most of the comment is just they're just following the story, which is
Hmm.
wow, we've actually accomplished our goal, which is we still have to take it as the, as the actor, but now we're taking it as the characters. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's a
Hmm.
big difference. You said, you know what? Yeah, yeah. Like I find myself defending myself as Matt,
Hmm.
and that's weird because I've become Matt, and that's like wow, what for an actor? How that's like a that's like a dream, right? Right?
Yeah.
You actually have become the character. That's like a dream. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm actually pretty bummed. I have yet to experience the show live with the Twitch audience, but hoping to catch next week's episode.
okay,
Of course, this show has so many unique aspects to it. You know, we've
yeah,
talked about the interactive element, but one thing that I personally am fascinated by in anything, but especially this, are the incredible discussions about human decency, morality, philosophy, and deep moral questions.
yeah.
Was there anything you learned from the topics addressed in the show that you've carried with you into your personal life?
Oh well, I mean, a lot of times for me, I'm a real nerd from way back, and to me, I kind of feel like acting is sort of a good excuse to do research, and it's very funny because I go so overboard on everything,
Uh
and
huh.
on the research, and I realize I have an excuse to actually just totally nerd out on this subject, and so. Anytime we addressed a philosophical question or whatever, ethics, and also how it connects to AI. Because as I was saying, I have an engineering background, and actually, yeah. Well, that's a whole thing. I have a whole
Uh huh.
background, very closely connected to AI from back in the day and everything like that. So I love all this, and in fact, right after this, I have a conversation with a relative who used to work at SpaceX because I want to pick his brain about some. I've been learning to code in Python. So I actually coded part of Sophie. Like I have
Oh, what? That's so
yeah, it's
cool.
crazy, right? I know, like
Oh
I'm
man.
ridiculous. And it's funny, yeah, yeah. I have a Sophie 2.1.2 that generates these limericks and blah blah. Blah. Anyway, and I said, yeah, 'cause I got to make her more fun, So anyway, that's what I do. And it's funny because I talked to Bernie and going, okay, that's great. It's like we don't need. He says, I know exactly how Sophie is coded. If you want to pick my brain, just ask me. And he goes, okay, we'll get back to you on that. So
Oh
anyway,
man.
but I do that, and I'll be talking with this guy, this friend, this family member that's at SpaceX, and talking about AI, like how free will, because that's a very fundamental aspect of this case, right? Does AI have free
Hmm.
will? How is that encoded, right? Or what is the definition of that? So there are ethical questions. What is free will? So that will speed in, there's it's less philosophical now, but I was part of that philosophical part of the show, so so I'm very invested in it. So I'm still Matt. I'm still like
Yeah.
the philosophical. I'm the geek. I'm still like and I figured why not? That's what I do. And so there's questions, a lot of philosophical questions. This is my current one. I think about free will. What is that in terms of AI, and how is that fit into coding? Like for instance, they have things. I don't know what's common knowledge these days, but there's this thing reinforcement learning, where this is how these robots learn,
Hmm.
and way up in the future they have this is the next level, but it's there. There's there's a thing where how can the thing called AGI, that's basically like a human robot versus a narrow AI, like a car,
Hmm.
that their only job is to drive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's a human that actually has those issues, consciousness, ethics, and whatnot. And the question is, do you need to put those into the robots, and is that even possible? So a lot of times they, so in other words, and there are ways through deep learning. I don't know if if I make if I'm
You are. I'm
I make
following. I'm
sense, right?
tracking. I'm
Yeah,
tracking.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, you're track. So where you actually learn to assess the situation, and you have this thing called Q learning, where you have an action in the state, and you decide from that what do you learn from that, what value do you add. That eventually creates who you are and what kind of decisions you make in the future, which have
Hmm.
nothing to do with the original what actually was hard coded into you. So it can be a policy that was this thing called policy, which is there's a reward function that's according to a particular policy, right? Does that make sense? Am I like
Yeah.
boring
Yeah.
you? I'm not boring you, right?
You're not. You're not. No,
Okay.
this is all fascinating. This
Oh,
is all
okay,
fascinating.
okay. I just
I have a question that ties into this
okay,
later
okay,
on,
okay.
but
But
yeah.
anyway, long story short is that's what I'm very interested in. And now it's funny because I'm tying it. I'm listening. I'm kind of looking, and there's a philosopher Chalmers who talks a lot about what is free will, and there's a few others. There's Judea Pearl, who he's like this Turing award winner, and they have these really fascinating. There's although this, I think this one guy's definition of consciousness was, when a soccer coach, tells you, okay, kick the ball this way, and then you can change it. And he doesn't know how your software is set up. He didn't program you even, right? He
Right.
just knows that he can say this to you, and there'll be a reward, blah blah blah. And then, as an AI, or if we think of ourselves as AI, if you're going in, you take that in, you go in and you know how to change one of your software modules. So if you do this, this will change your behavior, and if you change your behavior, this will change the result, and maybe get a different reward, that kind of stuff. So this is how they evolve. So it has nothing to do with whoever originally, how basically you come to your own, the center of your own ethical universe. And
Hmm.
so those are the things I love. So there were a lot of things that were addressed. For instance, like the classic is, the Immanuel Kant, the trolley
Yeah.
car.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The trolley car thing, and all these things are very fascinating if you really get to the bottom of it. I mean, it could make for a we could lose about 10,000 viewers if we really got deep into it. But as far as the conversations that come out afterwards of the show, which I'm sure we could probably have a whole show on that, on
Hmm.
one point. They go very deep, and the question is, do you actually want to incorporate that into AI? And the show actually addresses it, so in its sort of fun little Twitch way. I mean, it's kind
Hmm.
of goofy, right? Twitch travel, but yeah, it's addressing some very deep questions that are all there that were addressed in the first season. So that's what
Yeah.
I like about that is I don't know if I answered your question, but I kind of feel that yes, as far oh yeah, this was your question is this something that set off? Yeah, it set me off on a whole journey,
Hmm.
and I've always said that, I've heard things where, a lot of AI people, they go into it for various reasons. Did they go into it because they want to save the world or they want to make sure the highways are safe? But, that's part of it, right? Do they want
Right.
manufacturing to be efficient? Yeah, those are great things, right? But at
Hmm.
the end of the day, most of these cats, because they're so damn smart. I mean, this is a whole different level. Is a lot of them went into it because AI, maybe it started out because they saw some robot on Star Trek and they were a kid or something, and they're fascinating. The reason why it is, and I think continues to be this way, if you look deeper underneath the surface of the show, it's because we learn more about our own what is intelligence and existence and consciousness. Like we actually start examining those questions, which are not clear,
Hmm.
as was very made very clear in the first season, and I think even on whatever level it's taking, no matter how much it's fun in games, those questions are being addressed. So I don't know. On my own, I'm still addressing those, and I'm still. I don't know what's wrong with me, but as I say, maybe acting gigs are excuses for research for me. That's maybe at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's what's going on. So
No, that was an extremely fascinating discussion. I love it when people talk about things they're passionate and knowledgeable about.
yeah,
So I'm just gonna jump to this question then,
yeah,
because I have a feeling this will be really cool. You said you have a background in engineering. You're fascinated by AI.
yeah.
If you had the means and the tools and the drive to, would you yourself create an AI that was similar to Sophie Lynn slash Lilith And if so, what would be the main objective of that AI?
Wow, that is a big question. So I guess we're speaking as opposed to just making a career change. This is me as in a perfect world, I restart
Hmm.
my life. So this is, and I'm a gazillionaire, so I don't care about paying my bills. That kind of that's what you're asking, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, uh, because it's interesting because I'm a little older, so I've kind of been through a couple of the generations of AI. I don't, it's had its ups and downs, and now we're kind of into, it's had its recent renaissance, and a lot of it has to do with computing power. It just, the things people are talking about, back in the 80s and 90s, kind of went down because the computing power just wasn't there to support it. So now it's starting to get there, and of course we know eventually that's something you can't stop. Computing power will continue to increase. What is that? Moore's law or something like that? I can't remember. There's some law or it's something about computing power exponentially growing, something crazy like that. But anyway, so I would say, would I build it? Did you ask would I build it like Sophie or Lilith or what?
Yeah,
Or
like an AI, a humanoid AI similar to Sophie Lynn or Lilith, and what would be that AI's main objective?
Yeah, I would say it's interesting because I do believe that if we're assuming that I'm independently wealthy and I don't worry about bills, I think the question would become: do I want to help the planet, or do I want to satisfy my own intellect or my own relationship with reality? I would say the former question, yeah. Then you look at things like what is best for the world, and I think that's rightly so where most of the energy is. In which case, you probably want to build more of an narrow AI system, which is things like medical technology that can, give you a pinpoint accurate prescription, or self-driving car that will not only will save lives and probably save your own, because I did go into one of the I did do that what is that, autopilot thing. I did, and it's crazy. It's a weird
Hmm.
experience because it's almost. But one thing I realized is like, oh, this car's just doing what I do, only probably better. Like, yeah, that's what I would be doing. I'd be looking around, and and it's doing
Yeah.
exactly what I would do, only better. So I think, okay, now I can see why it actually is going to make things safer. Oddly enough, and so those sort of things. That's sort of the save the planet mentality, which I'm going to say, and it's probably not the right thing to say. I don't know if that's. I don't want to say it's not my number one priority because I
Right.
think it's very important. But I believe in, if I'm really honest, uh, having that intellectual satisfaction, or that, I had a friend of my dad's was a scientist, blah blah blah. But anyway,
Hmm.
there's one guy that's the guy, a collaborator of his is Nobel Prize winner. He was crazy, crazy guy, but I shouldn't say it, great guy. But he'd always talk about the joy of understanding.
Hmm.
He goes, that a lot of people, I tutor as well. I tutor like calculus and physics and things like that. And I always feel like maybe at the end of the day, it's nice to surpass that on the joy of understanding, because I think that, yeah, I guess I probably would say, I probably would go through this. Should I be trying to feed the world, or should I be trying to help people understand the world better, and maybe we'll treat each other better? So maybe and also because I kind of like, I am very hooked on that joy of understanding, like to the point that
Hmm.
it's, I probably bore the bore the hell out of people sometimes, but I have that, and I could thank God for the nerds of the world that will actually have a
Hmm.
conversation with me. So,
Hmm.
but yeah. So in answer to your question, that's probably in reality the decision I'd make is like, let me create an AGI, a human being that has ethics. So Sophie, basically,
Hmm.
um, let me create that, because if we understand that, then I think we'll understand ourselves on a level that I believe would make the world a better place. So that, and plus it'd be cool, right? How cool would that be, right?
Yeah, no, of course. That's such a beautiful answer. Wow, like that great discussion. That's all my questions personally. It was incredible talking to you and having your insights on all these things. And of course, you're fantastic in season three. Season three is so awesome so far. I love it. Artificial on Twitch, it's awesome.
Well,
So thank you so much.
okay, thanks so much, Johnny. All
All
right.
right, bye.